Hey everybody, it's Paul.
And Steve.
And we are back to discuss it all. Now we've got a great continuing topic in our musical series coming up today. But before we get to that, I would really like to encourage you, if you haven't already, please hit the subscribe button if you find yourself enjoying this video, and make sure to give it a thumbs up and share it with friends also. It really
the algorithm loves that.
The algorithm loves that, yep. And we are also planning on doing question and answer videos going forward. The first one will be when we get to 500 subscribers, and then of course 1,000 and 1,500 and so on and so on. So if you have any questions for us, please leave those in the comments down below as well. All right, Steve, today's topic is...
So we do discuss it all, and today we're going to continue discussing musical acts, artists from the 1980s. Previously, we talked about those artists from the early 80s, and today we're going to talk about those from the mid 80s. So from 83 to 86.
Right there in the middle.
Right in the middle. One of the best 3 or 4 years of music in all of the history of music. So there are a lot of great musical artists during that time. Formative years for the both of us.
Yes.
Really formed the kind of music we would love and listen to as a young teenagers. So I'm excited about it.
I am too.
Yeah.
I am too.
So I'm excited to hear what yours is. So why don't we start with you? Why don't you go first and you tell us what you're one of your favorite musical artists from 83 to 86, the mid 80s.
All right, so this is going to come as no surprise to anybody that this artist is on the list, but I'm going to start with Michael Jackson.
No doubt.
So obviously, Thriller came out in the very end of 1982. I feel like from 82 to 85, songs from Thriller were on the charts. I didn't research that,
right?
But Thriller was really one of those albums that you could listen to all the way through. Of course, the music videos had a huge influence on the culture, and I just remember that was the first album that I ever got that was like a single artist. Like I had a couple of like various artist albums, but my parents bought me a little cassette deck, boombox kind of thing. It wasn't a boombox; it was real small. And I got the Thriller cassette tape, and I got those two things for Christmas, and I wore that cassette tape out.
I bet you did. Great music on Thriller.
Yeah. And it's interesting because Michael Jackson, he really kind of epitomizes sort of my musical journey as I was thinking about these lists. I started off, with music that I enjoyed with my parents a lot. So it was a lot of like 80s sounds, but things that were like popular in the 50s and 60s. So it was like, Billy Joel was taking like that doo-wop sound and kind of making it his thing. And of course, there was a couple artists I wanted to go with here, but Michael Jackson, he was the king of pop.
Yeah, sure.
And certainly, in that early part of the 80s, I was very much into pop, which is why I didn't choose another artist.
Right, yeah. So, and I think your point about the music videos is huge. That kept bringing Michael Jackson in the forefront for people. And he kept making music, and his music really continued to evolve, and he was just a great artist during that period of time.
Absolutely. I mean, I remember that they were playing the Thriller video on the hour every hour for a while.
Amazing.
And we didn't have MTV, but I remember seeing that video for the first time at a friend's house, and it was like a miniature TV show. It was like 13 minutes long with the big intro.
That's right.
And I remember being scared of the monster he turned into, because I was terrified of werewolves.
Oh yeah, well.
And of course he was like more cat-like than wolf, but it didn't matter to me.
It didn't matter.
Scary, so.
It's still scary. I remember the world premiere of that video. We all gathered together. It was Friday night videos. I don't know that MTV had even come out yet or just come out, and all of our friends on Friday night, we had to be there. It was the build up, it was the hype, and it delivered.
Oh yeah,
I promised.
Absolutely.
No doubt, that's a great choice. Yeah. Michael Jackson, fabulous musical artist. So I'm going to go with another artist that's somewhat similar in that. 84 was a huge year for him. He had hits before, but 84 was a huge hit. And he continued to evolve as a musical artist. It's almost like every album is a completely different artist, changed his name a few times. Actually didn't have a name for a little while. So, but that is the artist formerly known as, and then later known as, again, Prince. So he would be one of my top artists from 83 to 86. Purple Rain, just almost without compare. It's a lot like Thriller.
Yes.
Every song on there virtually had a music video. Was worth listening to. You could put the cassette tape in and you could just let it play. And when it was time to flip it, and keep going. You weren't ever fast forwarding. And so Prince really stood out as an entertainer. Great videos, but his music was just fabulous. And it just, for me, it reminds me of what it was like that summer of 1984, sitting in front of Blake's house with all of our friends, and we just had that plugged into the boom box, listening over and over and over again.
Yeah, Purple Rain is just one of those iconic albums, and I think that's another diamond platinum album.
Yeah,
sold over 10 million
right.
copies. And you're absolutely right. Every song on there is a great song. And what's funny is, as I've aged, Prince has become much more my favorite artist.
Oh, right.
At this time, Michael Jackson was more my guy, just because of my musical sensibilities at the time. But yeah, definitely as I've aged, Prince. Absolutely, and you're right. He has reinvented himself with every album,
over and over.
Because his stuff before Purple Rain sounded a little bit different. His stuff afterwards sounds a lot different.
That's right.
But yeah, he's just a tremendous artist.
Yeah, I didn't even realize until just a few years ago that Prince actually played bass on Stevie Nicks' album, but went uncredited. And just wanted to do it because of the value of the art. So he was just that kind of an artist.
I know, and he wrote several hit songs for other artists. Susanna Hoff, he had a crush on. He wrote a lot of other stuff. Launched careers of several other. Just an amazing creative person.
So Prince.
Yeah, so Prince. That's a great one.
Yeah.
Okay, my next one is going to be. This is something I actually thought that they were much bigger earlier on, but for me, during this time, they had two huge albums, and that's going to be Huey, Lewis, and the News.
Oh yeah, good.
So had Sports in 1983, I think, and then 4 in 1986. Of course, they had the monster hit Power of Love, which was on one of the biggest movies ever.
Of course.
Back to the Future.
Of course.
They just had hit after hit after hit, and they really kind of. They're the band that, if I think about it, they're the people that started moving me much more towards the rock side of things.
Yeah.
Because they had that kind of doo-wop sound,
That's right.
That big band kind of sound, but more with that pop rock sensibility to it.
Yeah.
And I just kind of loved everything about them. They just always seemed like they were just having so much fun doing what they were doing.
No doubt. It was positive. It was upbeat. Really had kind of almost an 80s feel to it, right? Not just the music, but the lyrics, the attitude behind the song was the 1980s. That was the feel-good decade, right? And they certainly were feel-good songs.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, so.
Absolutely.
Yeah, the songs about love and about happiness and about friendships. Great pick.
Great music videos too. So.
No doubt about it. Some of the best music videos had stories. It wasn't just them standing up on stage singing and that sort of thing.
That's right.
They were stories. No, that's a great one.
All right. So
my number 2, also a huge 1984 band, and that is Van Halen.
Yes.
Actually, 1984, the album.
Yep.
Which, like Prince and like Michael Jackson, virtually every song in 1984 you could listen to on its own. It's interesting, on radio today. Some of the songs that get more play from Van Halen are the ones that weren't the biggest hits back in the 80s.
Isn't
it's
that
kind of a little different, but great music. Again, a lot of fun, a lot of upbeat, great music videos. Who wouldn't love David Lee Roth? Which is the real Van Halen, of course. We may have some debate about that later, but. Love Van Halen. I had listened to Van Halen before, their earlier albums, but 1984 was just a big turning point for me in my love for Van Halen, and probably wore out more than one cassette tape of Van Halen. So.
Yeah, okay, so this is actually going to be a twofer for me. So I'm going to take Van Halen as well. They made my list, but for a different reason. Again, for me, two huge albums during this time frame, 1984 and 84. And then with Sammy Hagar, 5150 in 1986. And because I was moving into rock, I didn't have that loyalty to David Lee Roth.
Yeah.
Also, I had never seen any of their music videos until much later.
Right. Okay.
So I didn't, I knew David Lee Roth's voice, but I couldn't put his on-screen persona to that. I'd never seen them in concert. Yeah. So to me, I just like the music.
Yeah.
And the music that I heard on the radio from 1984 was Jump, which was just a massive hit.
Yeah.
And then Panama, which I thought was just really cool, just that driving rhythm.
Of course.
And then you got, in 5150, you got Sammy Hagar, who, this would be a great future video for us. We're going to do the top 5 where you take the David Lee Roth era, and I'll take the Sammy Hagar era.
That's would be great.
And it was neat for me because I actually enjoy the Sammy Hagar stuff a little bit better. And David Lee Roth, in interviews nowadays, when he talks about his time with Van Halen versus he's very quick to point out that Sammy Hagar brought a different dimension to Van Halen.
Yeah.
And David Lee Roth in his own style says, he always wants to, he says, me, David Lee Roth, I ain't talking about love.
That's right.
But, he's always asked, what's love got to do with it? Or,
That's right.
Or Love Walks In or whatever.
That's right. That's right.
Things like that. And so, Sammy Hagar was singing about a lot, a lot of those kind of things right at the age when I was hitting puberty.
Yeah.
And so I just liked that.
Well, and he had all that success as a rocker before he ever went to Van Halen. And so he does add this new dimension to it. And those are, certainly those are Ginger's favorite years with Van Halen. She's not a real David Lee Roth fan, but we'll have to come back and do that video. I think that'd be a really good thing.
I think that'd be fun. So anyway, so that's gonna be your pick and my pick is both gonna have Van Halen.
Because that's really two different musical artists.
Really kind of was, yeah. It was a whole different thing.
Yeah, no doubt.
In the Sammy Hagar.
No doubt. Good. No, that's great. That's a great pick. All right, so I'll go with my next one. So for me, beginning with kind of Van Halen and then moving forward, really became a season of hard rock, heavy metal.
Okay.
And so I made a real transition into heavy metal with some of these other groups. And so I'm going to go with the next big, huge artist from, again, 1984, and that is Mötley Crüe.
Oh, okay.
So I loved Mötley Crüe. Shout at the Devil was the album that we would sit on the big green electrical box outside in the front yard, and all day, every day during the summer, that just played over and over and over again.
Yeah.
So, and they, Mötley Crüe at the time, this is when they were wearing makeup, they were the big hair band, and they really kind of mainstreamed what Ozzy had been doing previously, and some of these other heavy metal rockers had done. Really brought it mainstream, was playing on the radio, and so that was great. Red Hot, I mean, just all sorts of great songs from that album.
Yeah, so that's interesting. Mötley Crüe was great in that era, but I didn't discover them until a little bit later.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I kind of caught on to them in the girls phase, which was I think 87.
That's right.
So it's going to be interesting because in the late 80s, it's all going to be heavy metal for me.
That's right.
Because that's where I moved into.
Yeah, sure.
A little bit later. But yeah, Mötley Crüe. Some of Mötley Crüe's best stuff came out then, except for the Theater of Pain album.
Right. Now we could have done without that.
Yeah, I mean, I know that Home Sweet Home is probably one of their biggest hits, and it's interestingly what they closed the show out with.
Yeah.
Now, but well, they would have if they were on tour this summer.
If they were touring, yeah, everybody's closed down.
Yeah, but yeah, obviously, Shout at the Devil was a huge album.
Yeah, sure.
And all of Mötley Crüe's discography in the original Vince Neil years were really good.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
All right, great pick. Okay, my next one is going to be. A band, and this was neat because I thought about this. Just an interesting side note that was going to be the Police.
Oh yeah.
So, so I know the Police is another band that had a lot of stuff before, but I discovered them with Synchronicity.
Oh yeah, sure.
And that to me was just a really neat album because it sounded like nothing else.
Very unique.
I love the song "Every Breath You Take" and "Wrapped Around Your Finger" from that album. But once I actually got the cassette, I could listen to the other songs. I discovered "King of Pain," "Synchronicity 2," and just some really other cool things that that just didn't sound like anything I heard on the radio. And that was something that I really liked about them. But the interesting side note is this: I watched a documentary on the Police. And just how much internal strife that band had.
Oh, sure.
Between the different, the three personalities in that band, and they all had this different vision for what it was going to be. And I thought about Fleetwood Mac, and and they had this internal strife. And I thought of Guns N' Roses, and I'm like, so in order to have a truly epic album, you need to have this conflict.
That's exactly. Yeah, you can't just get along and make a great album.
Yeah,
you have to have the conflict, the drama.
Van Halen with David Lee Roth.
Always.
Apparently that drama creates the Kiss. Yeah. So the Police is going to be my
what
next
a great band. 1985, Sting. This is one of their periods of time when they weren't touring together. Sting came to Pensacola, Florida, and the radio won tickets to ride on the WABB party bus from Mobile to Pensacola to go see him in concert, and it was one of the best shows I've seen. I've seen a lot of shows, but it was one of the best.
Oh, that's cool.
So
I saw my first concert ever in Pensacola, Florida.
Is that right?
Yep. Yeah, and actually that band is going to make my list in the late 80s.
I'll look forward to that.
So yeah.
Good. Okay. All right. So next for me, another hair band, another rock and roll. hair band, closely associated. Kind of their career was built really on the back of and by Mötley Crüe, and that's Ratt.
Oh yeah.
I loved Round and Round. It was just one of my favorite songs. And then in 1980, that came out in '84. In 1985, when Invasion of Your Privacy came out, just loved it, maybe even more than the previous album. And just listen to those things. I remember kind of riding back and forth with a friend. We were going to a camp, and we just listened to that over and over. The windows down, and he was old enough to have his driver's license, and I didn't. And we listened to that album over and over.
Yeah, Ratt is one of those bands that, to me, it kind of epitomizes that sound of the Sunset Strip.
Yeah.
They're a great band, had obviously great musical talent in Warren DeMartini doing the guitars.
Yeah.
Just came up with some just killer riffs
Yeah.
that,
Yeah.
I mean, to this day, I mean, the videos are all over YouTube how to play this. I mean, people want to know, and it's not easy to do.
No, not at all. And that's that LA sound, the LA rock and roll band sound, with Skid Row and Warrant and some of these others. But Ratt really epitomized that as much as, or probably more than anybody, and certainly was one of my favorite groups in that season.
Yeah, I wish they could kind of mend fences and go back on the road.
Wouldn't that be something?
Yeah, I'd love to see Stephen Pearcy with the band.
Yeah, would love to see that happen.
Go back. Yeah, because they did make a lot of great music.
Yeah.
Okay, my next one is going to be, let's see, I've got a few more I got to pick. All right, I'm going to go. You can let me know. This is going to be a twofer as well, and if you want to cheat on me, you can. But I'm going to go with Phil Collins and Genesis.
Oh, sure.
So, so Genesis was an interesting band because they would put out albums somewhat infrequently.
Yeah.
They had a massive album in 1986 or 1985, I think, with Invisible Touch.
Right.
And I love that song. I love Land of Confusion, which was on that album. But Phil Collins really came into his own as a solo artist also at this time. And I just remember hearing him, almost everywhere. And I liked almost all of his songs, except for Studio.
No, that's right. Yeah, we talked about that one on a previous video, I think. So.
Yeah, but like almost all of the songs that he made, I really just liked.
Yeah.
And if I think back of like that time in my life, he was almost like a background soundtrack of my life.
Right.
From that time.
Yeah.
So whether it was with Genesis or solo, I can just like hear Phil Collins, kind of voice in my head. So that's gonna be my fourth pick.
No, that'll be good. No, I really like that. All right, so number 5, and again, there's so many that we could that we could choose. Some of those other kind of heavy metal bands I really liked in that period of time. But another one that really shaped my life during that period was Night Ranger.
Oh yeah,
loved Night Ranger. Probably not as big a band as some of these. Certainly not as big a band as some of these others that we've talked about. But for me personally, I loved their music. It was in many ways a part of the regular rotation of everything that I was listening to and that sort of thing. So I'm going to go then with Night Ranger as my 5th pick. Saw them in concert a few years ago. They were great then, great now, and they were certainly great back in the 80s as well.
Yeah, Night Ranger is one of those bands that the only song I remember from them thinking back at the time would have been Sister Christian,
of course,
which was a massive
huge.
hit. But of course, they had Don't Tell Me You Love Me. When You Close Your Eyes, Do You Dream About Me?
Your Eyes, yeah, absolutely.
And all those are great songs that I kind of discovered later on.
Oh yeah, sure.
But you're right, and it's kind of a bummer with concerts not coming around because they were coming to town with Whitesnake and somebody else, and I was really looking
forward to a couple of summers ago, maybe last summer, saw them they were with Foreigner and Journey, and saw them together. It was a great show, fabulous show. Yeah.
All right, so I think that was your 4th.
That's 5. That's 4. That's 4.
That's 4.
Yeah, that's 4 for me.
Okay, all right.
This is your 5.
So my 5th. Let's see. So my 5th, I'm going to go with. Let's see. Okay, I'm going to go with Duran Duran.
Oh, great.
As my 5th.
Great pick.
So again, they're definitely in that pop category.
Yeah.
I wouldn't really call them just pop, but I can't call them rock either.
Right.
They had kind of this like driving new wave sound.
Sure.
Of course, they had a massive album in the earlier 80s with Rio, which of course is Rio and Hungry Like the Wolf. But I wasn't as into them then. For me, when I think of Duran Duran, I think of like the Reflex, New Moon on Monday, Please Please Tell Me Now, or Is There Something I Should Know? I forget what the title of that one is. And then the theme song for A View to a Kill,
of course,
with James Bond. And they had so many other massive hits. Duran Duran kind of falls in that camp of Phil Collins with me, where it's like when I think about the 80s, I
hear that music.
Duran Duran was so much part of the 80s for me.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, in so many ways, not just fabulous music, but their music videos were all very watchable and enjoyable, and during that period of time, great music.
It's interesting because I don't remember hearing Rio or Hungry Like the Wolf on the radio very much, but later on I saw those videos, and that's kind of how I discovered those.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah, but yeah, I do remember like their videos, Michael Jackson, Madonna, and Prince, and like some other people, like the MTV being like, we're gonna do the new video, and it's like an event.
That's right, and they always were an event.
They were.
Yeah, no doubt. All right.
So that's my fifth pick.
That's good. Well, I'm going to go with my fifth pick. I'm going to go back to metal bands, and I'm really thinking not so much about a band that I listen to a lot now. About the only time I listen to this band now is when I'm in the car with Ginger and I want to annoy her with my 80s hair bands. But I loved them at the time, and I just listened to them almost. Again, they were in the regular rotation with these other groups. Wore the album out. I can even remember when I would be at home by myself, I would set the sound system up and I would just rock to this, just blare it. And that's Quiet Riot.
Oh, which song?
Quiet Riot. So that's, Bang Your Head, Mental Health. And that was the one that just, stood out to me as this is the essence of the hair band. Mama, We're All Crazy Now. I mean, just great, hard driving rock and roll music from the 1980s, and just the quintessential hair band.
Absolutely. And the band Slade is still making money off Quiet Riot.
Absolutely.
Because a lot of their hit songs were Slade songs.
Yeah, that's right.
But yeah, Mental Health was just one of those albums that was really good because for me, I kind of discovered that, and that moved me into like some of the heavier bands that I never would have gotten into. Right. But Quiet Riot was much more accessible.
Yeah, sure.
And their songs were simple. Too. It was like just those driving, refrains
over and over.
With Mama, You're All Crazy Now, Come On Feel the Noise, and then there was a hidden gem if you had the Mental Health album. It was Slick Black Cadillac.
Of course,
for me, that's just such a cool song.
One of the best, without a doubt. And so every once in a while, I'll still pull that one up. Love that one. That's probably the one today that I would listen to on my own to just put a part of the rotation. And so every time on my Pandora station, my hair band's Pandora station, that song will actually come in because I have it liked.
That's good.
So it'll make its way. It'll make its way around.
Okay, so Ginger, not such a fan of the hair bands.
She's not a real fan of the hair bands at all, and certainly not Quiet Riot. For some reason, she just has this rejection of Quiet Riot altogether.
Now it's interesting because Shannon is similar to that, but she likes all of the quote unquote power ballads that all the hair bands had. And now of course Quiet Riot didn't have any of those.
No, they didn't. We weren't going to do that.
So
No. And I could have had Twisted Sister like right there beside them because they were very similar in their sound but that one didn't make the list.
Yeah. All right. Well, that was a lot of fun.
Yeah, enjoyed that.
And there were a lot of artists that like barely just didn't make it.
That's right.
Madonna. We mentioned her.
Of course,
she could have been on there. The Cars could have been on there.
Yeah.
So there you have it. There's our list. Now, of course, we are going to move into the late '80s in a future video here. But what did we miss today? What would have been your favorite band from '83 to '86 that we didn't say?
That's right. So let us know not only what those are, but also some ideas you might have for future videos. We'd love to hear what your thoughts are. We discuss everything, and we love being able to talk about things not just from pop culture, not just from music and movies, but virtually anything we'll talk about. So you've given us great suggestions so far. Keep those coming. Pop them down there in the comments, and we'll look forward to it. Be sure that you like and subscribe, and turn the notifications on so you don't miss any of these videos.
That's right. All right. Well, thanks so much for joining us today. We will see you guys next time.